Try to jump seats as high as you can, see if you can grab the rim.
Right here?
Yeah, just as high as you can, just give it a shot. Okay. Yeah, it might be a challenge.
So
But
what's
we
up?
can get you
my
there.
chicken legs,
Huh?
My chicken
I don't
legs.
even think it's your chicken. I think you're just not used to doing this. You know,
Right.
obviously, it's something, if you're trying to teach me one of your moves, you know,
There you go.
it's just going to, yeah, see, you're getting better at it already.
Yeah.
I mean, once you get comfortable doing that range, then you can do it with the ball. So, I was supposed somebody here imagine it is, so he can fly near you. Let's see. Oh, close. We got a ways to go, man. We're gonna get him right. I promise you that.
That was terrible.
We're gonna get him right. We're gonna get him right.
Now that I've officially embarrassed myself.
Bro, oh my God, that was pathetic, dude. What was that? Like, John got like 8 inches off the ground. He's got like that. He's 6'4", 7'1" wingspan. Barely got to the bottom of the net, dude. And then the ball, he's just tracking it the whole time. Smacks him in the face, dude.
I like how the guy who's coaching him, like, he knows John's scary, so he's kind of be nice. He's like, we'll get him right.
We'll get him
We'll
right.
get
bro.
him
That's
right.
Al Horford, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I think this was like a few years ago. He might have still been on the Hawks at this point. I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems like 5 or 6 years ago, the quality of the video, I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
But like, dude, like it looks like John's the worst athlete in his family. I mean, people say that, they joke about it, but like this really proves something here. Like, dude, he barely even gets close to the rim.
Yeah, Chandler Jones and I don't know his other brother's name, but they're both like really good NFL players. They probably could have dunked better than that.
Yeah, I mean, like, dude, like that's pathetic.
Yeah.
Bro, you're like one of the best fighters in the world. Everyone calls you the GOAT and shit.
Yeah.
Like,
I think it shows you, like, fighting, like, sometimes you really don't have to be the best athlete. You just have to be a psycho.
you have to be,
You just
you
have to be
have to be
nuts.
skilled in fighting for sure. I mean, no disrespect in that department, but bro, that's not impressive at all. It's funny though. Like, you would expect a guy like that, he could dunk. Like, I would have assumed, John could have dunked, especially 5 years ago.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Jones, we're gonna go right into the UFC 309 card. We got Stipe Miocic versus John Jones. Guys, I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty bummed out by this.
He's a big Stipe fan.
I am a big Stipe fan. I've been a big Stipe fan ever since he fought Francis the first time.
The first time, yeah, that was a great fight.
And I when I was looking at this fight, I really thought, Jones took Thiago Santos, Reyes, Gustafsson to like these like brutal decisions, and I was like, man, if Stipe was fighting those guys, I feel like he'd clean them up. So when I was going into this, I thought like, oh, this is like a 50-50 chance, but I was wrong. Stipe looked old.
He really did, and like he hadn't.
They both looked old.
They
honestly,
did.
The fight looked like they were fighting underwater.
I mean, what? Stipe was like 42. John's 37. The age really showed. I mean, Stipe hadn't fought in 4 years, about 4 years, and John is like a little over a year and a half.
And he hadn't won a fight in even longer than that, because his last fight was a brutal knockout by Francis.
I mean, I love Stipe as a personality. He always mumbles his words.
The subtitles on the UFC embedded for Stipe was hilarious.
Really, entertaining guy. I like the guy. I watched his interview with Nina Drama, and that was fucking hilarious.
Yeah,
y'all give that a watch when you get a chance. Chris Weidman.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And I was rooting for the guy. I like John Jones, but like, I don't know, man. I think he should have stayed at light heavyweight, in my opinion.
Yeah,
he doesn't look nearly as entertaining, even though he did piece up Stipe. That spinning kick to the midsection.
We got to talk about
nasty.
How Jones really did. So this is the other argument, though, is that people say that Jones fought a washed Stipe. I kind of disagree with that. I think they both are a little washed, if that makes sense.
For sure.
They're both older.
Yeah.
They came from the same era, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's fair for people to make John's win smaller, because he did fight the greatest heavyweight of his era, right?
Yeah. And
they are both about the same age. So that being said, though, Stipe's retired now. What's next for Jones?
Man, he was saying that he's not opposed to fighting Aspinall, right? Like
he's being weird about that.
My stream was lagging when I was watching the end. I definitely watched it legally. I didn't do anything, on the crack streams or anything.
No.
I don't know. I don't even know what that is. But
no.
He was speaking afterwards while he's still in the ring, and he was calling. I thought he was calling out Aspinall. No, he said he's open to it.
So Joe Rogan, like in the interview, talked to John after the fight, and John didn't look like he was going to retire. Joe Rogan mentioned Alex Pereira first. He didn't even mention Tom at first, and So I don't know. I mean, Jones doesn't sound like he's going to retire.
No, it doesn't
He
seem
looks like
it.
he's going to fight again, but it really is. I mean, everyone wants him to fight Tom, right? Everyone thinks the Tom Aspinall.
Hey, I wouldn't mind him fighting my guy Potan too, bro.
Pereira. Okay, well, we can talk about that. Before all that analysis, though, we want to talk to our producer here, Nick. Nick, would you have any thoughts about the Stipe Jones fight?
Well, I really did enjoy it. They were both older, and they're both not in their prime, so we did miss out on that. But overall, I think it was a good fight. It was entertaining. John Jones hit that nasty pancreas.
Yeah.
The liver, roundhouse kick. Obliterated his stomach and ended the fight. So that was cool to see. But I do agree with y'all. It was a lot less energetic, and I get that John Jones is a lot bigger than how he normally fights. Yeah. So he's going to be a little slower, but
he picked him apart.
Yeah, we did see the power. We did see the domination, even though it wasn't as insane as his normal fights. But overall, it was a great night.
I'll say one thing about Jones that is entertaining, even at his older, sluggish age, I guess, is his creativity. I mean, I don't know if y'all saw that. He did a side kick into a trip on Stipe. That's how he got him down that first round.
Easy. That was easy.
And I've never seen him do that sequence. It's like he just made it up on the spot, right? And he's really good. He's known for his spinning elbows, never threw one. I thought the fight really was over after those first 2 front kicks to the gut.
Yeah.
Those really messed Stipe up bad. And I think that's why his hands were down, his stamina was bad, and he was scared. And I think that liver was done. One little tap and it would have been over. So that spin back kick really just totally destroyed him.
Yeah, and once he got him to the ground, the elbows were doing so much damage. He threw a couple of those 12-6 elbows that were legalized for that fight night. And bro, he just dominated Stipe on the ground. And Stipe, he's not known to be like a slouch in wrestling by any means. He's a good wrestler.
He's a good wrestler. I mean, he out-wrestled Francis. The dude took Daniel Cormier, a Olympic wrestler, down.
Right.
And Jones really just showed
Jones just took him down easy with that little sweep you were talking about earlier.
So before we move on, I want to really quickly mention the 2 options with Jones. We got Tom Aspinall and we got Alex Pereira.
And Alex, right?
John really wants to fight Alex. I mean, you're the Poetan fan here.
Yeah, exactly.
But I want to make the case why I think Tom should unequivocally be the fighter.
He's an interim champ.
He's the interim champ.
The chance.
From what I saw, I think Tom's gonna knock John Jones the fuck out. I don't think it's gonna be close the way that John was fighting.
The way that Tom starts his fights, dude, he comes out fast and aggressive. Yeah. Most of his fights end in the first round.
I think he has the shortest fight time in the UFC.
Total time in the ring. Right, I think especially for a guy who's a champion, although it's an interim.
Yeah,
bro, he's just dominant, and I don't know if John can keep that pace with him.
Mm-hmm.
He looked really good against Stipe. He's old, but
Stipe hit John a few times.
He did. His punches were landing.
They were slow but
landed.
And if Tom hits him with those kinds of punches that Tom is known for, I don't know if John can eat him, and I don't know if John can.
I don't think so.
Last. I also wanted to quickly mention Alex, like you just said.
Right.
I will say that Alex has really never fought a wrestler in his entire UFC career, his short UFC career. His best wrestling / grappling partner would be Glover Teixeira, even amongst all the people he fought. Because people forget, Magomed does have a Greco-Roman style, but he's a striker first.
Right.
Magomed is, he's from Dagestan and he knows how to grapple. But Glover is just as good as Magomed in the pure grappling department.
I totally agree.
And I'll say, John Jones manhandled Glover pretty badly when they fought. And that's when Glover was in his prime, 27-fight win streak, and John made him look pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, Glover is a bad man, and he got dominated by Jones.
I'll just say, I think if John gets a paw on Alex, it's going to look very similar to the Cyril Gane fight. I think so
too. I think it would be a little underwhelming. I don't know if it's the fight for Alex to take personally, even if he is offered.
And this is coming from a super fan. The dude has he has 3 T-shirts.
Yeah, I got a bunch of shirts of this guy. He's one of my favorite fighters of all time for sure. But I don't know, man. I don't think it's the fight for Alex. He fought 3 times, 4 times in a year, won all of them pretty easily, decisively. He looked like a different animal against the guys he fought.
Yeah.
The Khalil Roundtree fight was obviously the best one in my opinion.
And I think 205 is the right division for Alex. He's going to be smaller than John, especially because he's going to be moving up to heavyweight if he fights. I just think I'm really nervous for Alex in that kind of fight. I don't think he's seen anything like John, and John's seen a lot of people like Alex. He's fought a lot of heavy hitters. So I would much prefer to see, if we want a real greatest heavyweight greatest heavyweight, biggest heavyweight fight of all time, it would be the unification bout.
You think of all time, that would be
it would be the biggest heavyweight fight of all time in the UFC.
Okay, wow.
Easily.
That's a statement there.
I
would love to see that.
What would be bigger?
I mean, I don't know, man. For a heavyweight fight, I can't think
There
of
isn't
one that's
one.
really.
There really wasn't ever one. I mean, Stipe was the greatest. Francis, I guess, if Francis somehow comes back to the UFC, that would be bigger. But we'll have to see what exactly happens. Let's move on. We're gonna quickly touch on a couple more UFC fights. The first one is going to be Charles Oliveira, and then the next one is going to be the Paul Craig fight. Thank you. And welcome back to the Shoot For It podcast. We just went over the John Jones-Stipe Miocic fight, and we will we'll quickly go over the Bo Nickel Paul Craig and the Charles Oliveira Michael Chandler fight, starting with the latter. Michael Chandler versus Charlie Olives. Who do you got, my man? What you got?
Man,
What's
I mean, I was going for Oliveira all the way. I knew he was Du Bronx, bro, in fucking MSG, dude, in New York City. Like, I knew he was gonna put on a show, and he really dominated that fight.
Those favela shorts were sick, too.
Bro, and he came in looking like a super villain, dude.
Yeah.
He looks like a. If you're all familiar with Plastic Man, I don't know.
Oh yeah, from DC.
Bro,
Oh my god, dude, you're right.
He looks like
He even fights like Plastic Man. He does. Fucking. That's hilarious.
Yeah, so like that could be a new nickname for him. I don't know, but the Plastic Man dominated early. The wrestling was just a different level.
Let's talk about the wrestling.
He looked like leagues ahead of Chandler.
The wrestling was nasty. No one was expecting Charles Oliveira, the jiu-jitsu man, to out-wrestle All-American Michael Chandler. And guess what? That's exactly what happened. I also want to quickly mention that Michael Chandler was cheating. The dude was cheating, man. I mean, the dude was grabbing gloves. He was hitting the back of the head. And for some reason, the ref was letting him get away with it. One of my friends was saying, like, he was watching the Michael Chandler-Charlie fight with his mom and dad. Mm-hmm. And, like, you know, in that one round when Michael Chandler's just pummeling the back of the Charles's head, the parents were like, is he allowed to do that? And my friend's like, I don't think so.
I don't know.
Who was the ref? Was it Herb Dean?
No, it wasn't Herb Dean.
I think it was Goddard for that fight.
Was it Goddard?
I think for that
fight.
It
was Peterson or Goddard, from what I remember. It was one of the other judges. It wasn't Herb Dean.
Herb was the main one.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, regardless, I mean, Charles really showed that he is the man. Michael Chandler is not.
I mean, even at the power disadvantage that visually you would expect Chandler to just dominate that wrestling, like it's starting the encounters, but bro, Charles just took him down easily. Every time after time. He didn't really go for like that many submission attempts.
It was just more domination.
There's a couple, and like the stand-up game looks solid for Charles. I mean, he really looks like one of the best all-around fighters. I would say. I mean, I don't know if Chandler's really an elite fighter in the UFC, in my opinion, but you got to start talking about Charles as one of the best pound-for-pound fighters.
100%. I mean, with Charles especially, you know, he's already in a division with killers.
Exactly.
And
that
he's
155 is nasty.
Yeah, and this guy, you know, he moved up from 45 to fight at 55. And Michael Chandler's been a career 155er, and Charlie Olives looks significantly bigger than Chandler in that fight as well. I also wanted to quickly mention Charles is really known for being a quitter a lot of the times. Like, if you had anything to point at him, he's a quitter and his chin's bad. But I didn't see any of that tonight. He was going against a very difficult, very tough challenge, and he really proved that he does have heart. His chin is suddenly back, it seems like. I mean, he took a lot of hits.
I mean, especially that last round, it was clear Oliveira had the first 4 rounds. And then Chandler, he hit him with, it was like a little hook or something. I don't remember the exact strike, but he rocked him pretty good.
Yeah.
And Charles withstood it. He got back up.
Withheld the storm.
And, you know, he ended up winning the fight, got him back to the ground in a wrestling position again.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just very impressive to me.
100%.
And that was a performance of the night, I believe.
It was a performance of the night, and I mean, he's now the #1 contender behind Arman Tsarukyan. So Arman should be fighting Islam in their next fight, potentially before Ramadan, hopefully. And I think that Chandler, I have no idea what the heck's going to happen with him. Maybe he'll wait till fight Conor, actually. I have no idea.
I don't know, man. Yeah. I mean, they were really trying to find someone for him to fight after the McGregor fight had to get canceled, but I mean, they put him against a monster at Oliveira. He really had no chance. And I misspoke earlier. It was fight of the night, not performance of the night. I thought it was interesting, though. The performance of the night was split 3 ways, with John Jones being the main event, the main card, and his victory over Stipe. But then I'd never seen this before, and I didn't watch these early prelim fights, but the two other ways it was split was with Oban Elliott and Ramiz Rahimaj. Maybe I'm mispronouncing that, but two early prelim fights that got the performance of the night.
It's interesting. I mean, you said it could be rare, and also I will say though, the prelim fights are sometimes way more fun to watch.
For sure.
Those guys have nothing to lose.
Exactly. Like I was thinking about this earlier. As your importance of a singular fight goes up, like if you're a top 10 guy fighting another top 10 guy, if you lose, you could just drop out of the top 10. You maybe won't get another chance to get up into that contention level.
Yeah.
So like you're way more. You kind of reserve yourself to taking risks. But like a fight where you have nothing to lose, you're going to give it your all. You're going to try and get that bonus money because you're
making
obviously
30.
Yeah, you're not making crazy money like a main card fighter would be making.
100%.
So you want to get that 50,000 bonus.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we move on to the next fight, Nick, you had any notes you wanted to add about the Charles Michael Chandler fight?
Oh, dude, I just want to say this man Charles is scary.
Yeah.
Like Gabe said earlier,
The plastic man.
He showed up looking like a super villain.
Yeah.
This dude, he has, monster. He's got killer in his eyes.
Yeah.
You see this guy walking down the road in the middle of the night, you're walking to the other side of the sidewalk.
Yeah.
You're getting out of his way.
100%.
He was a monster, as he's been in the past, and it was just entertaining to see him fight. Just do his thing,
100%.
destroy his opponent, and
yeah,
it was a great fight of the night.
Absolutely. Last thing I wanted to quickly mention before moving on, Henry Cejudo, a great two-time champion. He basically broke fighting down into 5 factors.
Okay.
You have attack, defense, right? Very self-explanatory.
Right.
You have IQ, which is like strategy and like being able to have fight smarts. You have feeling, which is like in the instincts, like in the middle of the fight, your instincts. And then last is risk, which is how to manage risk. A lot of times, like if you're doing spin kicks, how to manage that.
Right.
And he said that every fighter is like a specialty in one. So for example, a defensive fighter that comes to mind for me would be Islam, right? Very defensively sound. He has great defensive and offensive takedowns for counters. Risk would be back in the day, Stephen Thompson. He was great at spinning techniques, great karate guy, managed risk. But Charles, I think, is an attack specialist. The dude just comes at you million miles an hour. He's not going to stop. He will keep fighting you with every elbow, every fist, every submission, and he will come out with you. He's completely live by the sword, die by the sword.
Just nonstop offense for that guy. Like, he's a jiu-jitsu fighter, but he was really lighting up Chandler with 100%. The hands a little bit,
like
too.
You said, very well-rounded.
Well-rounded guy. Again, he should be in the conversation for pound best.
100%.
And yeah, like, I want to comment on what Nick said real quick. See, the producer, Nick,
Woo!
He was saying how Oliveira looks like a supervillain, right? These little 155ers, I'm a big deal. I'm like 6'3", 250-ish right now. Wink, wink. But pretty much, like, if you see those two guys out in the street, which one would you not want to fight? That would be Oliveira. Like, you put on, like, 2 long-sleeve shirts, cover up the tattoos. Oliveira has that look in his eye where it's like, bro, you do not want to mess with that.
I'd be more afraid of falling asleep with Michael Chandler's motivational speeches.
Oh my!
Moving onwards, completely to the opposite spectrum, we got a kind of boring snoozer fight. We got Bo Nickel versus Paul Craig.
I was very disappointed in that fight.
Yeah, why don't we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I was really expecting Bo Nickel to at least try to get it to the ground. I know Craig is definitely probably a better jiu-jitsu guy. I mean, Nickel, he's still fresh and young to the UFC.
Yeah.
But really, like, it didn't get to the ground. I don't think there was any takedown attempts the whole fight. Am I correct on that?
I think you're right. I think it was a pure stand-up fight, and it looked terrible.
It looked terrible, and like
it looked so
it
bad.
really did. Like Bo was like he was going in the pocket, throwing like one overhand and stepping out. Like there was no jabs, there was no straights, like there was no hooks. It was just one overhand step out of the pocket, and I was just like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
Like, and especially towards the end of that fight, they were both kind of just standing there looking at each other. There was nothing. There was no.
It was like
fire.
watching like 2 Mortal Kombat like character select screen people just looking at each other, just staring.
It's like you pull up the map to look at the combo moves and all that, and they're just standing.
They're just exactly, yeah.
What it
it's like in Super Smash Bros. When your friend's trying to learn the controls,
right.
And you're like in the other corner, like, all right, you ready?
Yeah, like that was a weird fight.
Yeah. Nick, you got anything you want to say? No? Yeah, I mean, there's nothing much to say here. One quick note I do want to mention with this is Bo Nickel is 7-0, and Paul Craig is 17-9-1. So, I mean, the dude does have like what 20 more fights than Bo Nickel.
Exactly.
Right? So, I mean, the guy has way more experience. Paul Craig, though, in his defense, I guess, he is just like a straight jiu-jitsu guy.
Right.
I mean, he's submitted Jamal Hill, Magomed Ankalaev, Nikita Krylov. He submitted big names, and he's a lot bigger than Bo Nickel
Yeah.
is. So I can see, I guess, why Bo Nickel wouldn't want to take him down, even though he's like a, 3-time All-American, like, national champion or whatever.
I mean, he's supposedly one of the best wrestlers in
Yeah.
all the UFC. Didn't even try to take him to the ground.
He made Paul Craig look okay in stand-up, and that's very hard to do.
He's throwing kicks, and like they look pretty solid for
Yeah.
a guy who's a jiu-jitsu specialist. Didn't expect that, but like, bro, it was just a boring fight.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I like Bo Nickel. This one fight is making me change my opinion a little bit. It's like, okay, is this guy really all that?
They need to
he's made
slow
out
down
to
his
be?
role. If he fights like even like Mikhail Olajaychuk or whatever,
Yeah,
he might lose. He might lose against a non-ranked guy. And I'll tell you this much. Last thing before we move on to the NBA segment.
Yeah.
He's gonna get destroyed by Hamzat. Remember when he was saying like, "Oh, I'll beat
Oh.
Hamzat." It's like,
no chance.
whoa, slow your roll there, buddy. Hamzat's
So-
gonna eat you for breakfast.
There's a lot left to be desired in that fight. Bo Nickel has a lot to work on in his fight game. We'll have to see if he really makes any improvements. In my opinion, he doesn't deserve.
He needs
a
to
fight.
wrestle more. He's a wrestler.
Yeah,
What are
he
you
doesn't
doing?
deserve a title fight anywhere close to that
No.
right now.
No.
Even though the UFC is trying to fast track him to the top. We'll have to see if he can make some
I think the
improvements.
UFC is seeing like, oh, okay, we need to slow this guy down. Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
So, well, that was going to be our UFC segment, guys. Moving on to the next one, we're going to be talking through the surprise NBA pod.
Well, let's do it.
We'll see you guys then. Welcome back to the Shoot For It podcast with JK, GK, NK. We're going to start the surprise segment. It's the NBA segment where we talk about surprising elements in this year's NBA, all the different developments. We're going to go to our main NBA analyst, Gabe
Let's do
Caviani, to
it.
start it off. Gabe, what you got for us, my man?
Okay, so surprise. This is where I'm going to be breaking down the teams that are surprisingly good, surprisingly bad, and the teams that are just right, just fine in that Goldilocks zone. So I'll start with the good surprises. So obviously, no one expected the Cavs to start this hot, bro. They're 14-0. They're about to play another game tonight against the Hornets, possibly getting to 15-0. That hasn't happened in a few years, especially since that Warriors team.
It's the Warriors, right?
Yeah,
the last
that was
one?
the 73-9 Warriors team. Well, they had an insane start.
Yeah.
This Cavs team, bro, they're revitalized under Kenny Atkinson after getting rid of Jimmy Bickerstaff. They've looked like a totally different team, even though the continuity on the roster has been there for the past 3-4 years. I mean, man, they really look like a lethal squad. I'm not super sold on them being like a contender quite yet, even though they've been doing great in the regular season. They have everything that they need. They have Evan Mobley and Jared Allen to lock up the paint. They got a bona fide star with Donovan Mitchell that can really lead them to whatever their ceiling is, contender or not. He's their leader. Darius Garland is playing well this year.
He's finally doing something with
right. He's he's
with
been
the
like
team,
a 19,
chemistry-wise.
20 point per game guy, almost double-digit assists for a couple of years in a row now.
Well, what do you think about Karis LeVert on that team? I think
Karis
he's not
LeVert off
mentioned
the
very
bench
much.
is
Yeah, off the bench,
fantastic.
yeah.
Um,
People
I
don't
wouldn't-
mention him.
I wouldn't say he's like a six man of the year type guy necessarily. Depending on the record, if they end up being number one in the East, he's probably a front runner in the conversation at least to win that award as a six man. But man, they just have a really balanced scoring approach. They're passing the ball. They have a star that can lead them with a 30, 40-point game.
Yeah, people forget Donovan Mitchell had like a 70-point game.
71, I think.
71 just a couple
Was
years
it last
ago?
season?
Last season or before, yeah.
Yeah. But they don't need him to take over every night. They really just share the ball, and they don't really need one guy to carry them. So that's a big thing in the playoffs. When it slows down, you're going to need someone to get you those hard to get buckets when the defense is focusing in on one guy. But they pass the ball so well. I think they're going to surprise some teams. They're going to get at least 2 rounds or so into the playoffs. I don't know if they're going to get to the finals. I mean, obviously the Celtics are still juggernauts.
The East is so weak, though. I mean, it does
East
seem
is
like
weak, but I
Because
don't know, man.
Yeah.
The Cavs, sky's the limit. We'll see how they continue. I would love to see them get to 15-0. I'm rooting for them.
Because it's what the Cavs obviously right now are going nuts, and then you had the Celtics. But after, I mean, a lot of the other teams, I mean, you might have them in the list, but like the 76ers, the Bucks, all the guys we
76ers
thought
with
would have kind of been good.
I'm a big Pacers guy. If y'all remember, I mentioned
Yeah.
them in our first episode. and the Pacers are sitting at 5-7, tied with the Hornets.
Mm.
And man, the Hornets, the Pistons, they've been really like in that no man's land zone for past couple of years, and they're making a push. They added some veterans to both of those rosters, but really the Cavs are the only team that's far and ahead. The good surprise for the East.
100%.
But moving on, my other good surprise, I'm gonna do like 2 teams or so for each section. The Warriors, man. That Warriors team with the motion offense, with the 2 splash buddies, Steph Curry and Buddy Hield, man, they look fantastic. They're a top 3 defense right now, and they are swarming teams with energy. They're a very deep team. They got guys like Brandon Podjemski,
Looney,
Kuminga, Looney, D'Anthony Melton, Gary Payton II, Andrew Wiggins, Trace Jackson Davis has been pretty good.
they do have a good.
They
squad.
have a good squad, but when you get down to it in the playoffs, you're going to really shrink down your roster, like who's playing heavy minutes, and they're going to have an issue, in my opinion, finalizing their roster for a playoff run because they're high intensity, high energy team, a lot of movement, like I mentioned, that motion offense, constantly running circles with Curry and Hield. Everyone else is screening and cutting with Draymond Green, dotting the I's, crossing the T's, passing that ball from the paint area.
He's their vet.
The middle of their court. He's their enforcer.
Mm-hmm.
He's still playing dirty. He's going to get in people's minds psychologically. He's going to talk his trash. He's going to get everybody in line. They really have everything that they need, but I'm curious how the rosters are going to look towards the playoff time. I don't think they're going to remain this hot. As of right now, they're 10-2. That I never would have expected that. So obviously, huge positive surprise for the Warriors. I'm a Rockets fan. I can't believe I'm saying this. The Warriors look really good this year.
Well, really quickly, you mentioned the Rockets. We earlier this year we played them, and Tari Eason had that crazy comeback. Wasn't that when Curry wasn't in?
Curry wasn't in.
He wasn't even in that they won. So it just shows you that how good they are. It took even from a Superman Tari Eason performance against their, not as great players, we still lost. So it shows how good they really are.
Just to wrap it up, Warriors, if they can maintain that defensive intensity, keep moving the ball, and if obviously Curry stays healthy, that's a team to watch out for, especially on the offensive end when they're hitting their threes. It's a team that's going to be hard to shoot off the court.
Absolutely.
Moving on. So I'll go to the teams I think are on pace. Maybe they're my surprise, maybe not, but
this is the Goldilocks just right, basically.
Goldilocks zone where, they should be there.
Yeah.
They could be better, they could be worse, but that's
They're
where
right
they should be.
They should be.
So as of right now, the Celtics, they're 11-3, defending champions. They pretty much have the same lineup as last year. They have all kinds of goons on the court. Derek White has been balling out of his mind. He's had multiple 30-point games where he hit 7 threes. He's still locking up people. I think he's leading the guard position for blocks and steals right now.
I didn't know that.
He's doing fantastic. Actually, the guy, what's his face on the Pelicans, he's leading in steals, but whatever it is.
Murphy. Murphy?
Australian kid. Dyson Daniels. He had a game where he had 7 steals the other night. That was fantastic.
Wow.
Anyways, Celtics, they're going to be contenders. They're probably going to beat the Cavs in the Eastern Conference Finals if they end up getting there, if the bracket matchups end up working out the Cavs' way. I could see them finishing with the Celtics as 2 best teams in the East. Celtics on pace. Yeah. Not really much else we need to talk about there.
Well, I was quickly going to say before we move on, I think one thing you do need to mention is the 3-point shooting. I think
for the Celtics?
Yeah, wasn't it? Didn't they have a 3-point, they had the most 3-point makes or something like that a few games ago? I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
I'm not sure. I could be wrong on that. They've had a few games where it's they hit the most threes.
Yeah, something like that, where they just have so many shooters. Yeah. It's just insane.
And when they get Porzingis back, dude.
Oh my God, I forgot. They don't even have Porzingis.
They're 11-3 without Porzingis.
Wow.
So when they get him back, obviously they're going to be the best.
They might be back in the positive list somehow on the next surprise.
Yeah, they could.
Somehow.
If Porzingis comes back any kind of time soon, they're going to be in the positive list again because they're going to be that much better.
Yeah.
So moving on, the Thunder again, Goldilocks zone. They're number 1 in the West last season. They're 11-2, but they have 3 significant injuries with Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein. So they've had a game earlier this week where Shea was the tallest player in their starting lineup, and he's only 6'6".
Yeah, and the guard. Imagine your point guard being your tallest player.
Yeah, and he's your 1-2 guard, and he's the tallest player in your starting lineup. That's very concerning, but they're still balling. Jalen Williams is taking up a lot of the scoring role when Shea's off the court. They look pretty good on pace. I wouldn't be too surprised if they end up being number 1 team in the West again. They're definitely the front runner for that. Another team I think that's on pace is the Sacramento Kings. But I think they have huge potential with that DeRozan move that they made in the offseason. The perfect lineup with Fox earlier this week. He had a 60-plus point game.
Points, that's right, yeah.
They ended up losing to the Minnesota Timberwolves, but still, fantastic scoring on that lineup. When they have DeRozan, Sabonis, and Fox figuring out how to space properly because they're all slash first score in the paint type of guys. And then they shoot their mid-range if they can't get to the rim. If they can figure that out with their 2 shooters, Kevin Huerter and Keegan Murray, man, they got everything that they need. Maybe there's a little bit left to desire in their defense, but man, that offense is going to be impossible to get off the court. And then Malik Monk, he said he's missed a couple games this year, but when he's healthy, dude, there's not going to be a moment you can breathe and take a break on defense.
And one thing you didn't mention either, Sabonis is one of the most efficient big men right now. I think he had a 100% efficiency triple-double.
Yeah, he had didn't miss a free throw, didn't miss a field goal, triple-double, 0 turnover.
Sets great screens.
I believe that was the first time ever where that happened.
Yeah.
And
dude's an all-star.
So slept on.
Yeah.
So slept on. If Jokic didn't exist, he would probably be the best center in the NBA right now.
Yeah. Or between him and Embiid, if Jokic didn't exist.
Embiid's been, he's been.
We don't talk about
up
Embiid
and
down.
He
punched
we're not
someone.
going to bring up Embiid right now. We don't even need to talk about the Sixers.
Let's move on to let's talk on.
Okay, so finally, some bad surprises, right? Obviously, everyone is disappointed with the Bucks.
Yep.
As of right now, they're 4-9. They've strung together a few wins, but just the coexistence for Dame and Giannis, they can't figure it out, man. I don't know how they can really fix that. And is it really Doc Rivers' fault? I don't know. I think it's really just it might be a team chemistry thing, where maybe they just don't like playing together. Because Giannis, dude, he's just a downhill player, and he gets to the paint, they get double teamed. He should be able to kick out to Bobby Portis and Dame for easy threes, and Brook Lopez in the corner, man. But the ball doesn't move well in that lineup, and Dame's not a pass first point guard. He's a shoot first guy. He had a 41-point game earlier this season, but it's just one game he's hot, one game he gets 8 points. One game is 30, one game is 15. So I don't know how they can fix that, man. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up blowing it up. I mean, Chris Middleton, if they get him back, that helps the spacing a little bit, but I don't know, man. I'm disappointed in the Bucks, and I don't really think that they can fix it. I don't know if they're going to get rid of Dame or Giannis or what's going to happen.
When you talked about Giannis, I know that there was some trade rumors with Giannis for, actually, we just mentioned the Thunder, because they have so many picks. They have so much, I'm just saying potential, right? I'm not saying that. Yeah. But the Thunder, the Rockets, and the Nets, I think have just the most picks and most packages to offer the Bucks. So I mentioned that because the Thunder don't have any big. Giannis would be insane on the Thunder.
Yeah, Giannis and Shea on the same
Can you imagine? I mean, obviously the Rockets, we could give some good young players.
Sorry, I mean, they already, Rockets, their front office already mentioned that they're not willing to trade Amen Thompson and Tari Eason.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. The Terror Twins have been dominating on the offensive glass, running the fast break, dunking on people, getting fast breaks based off of steals and block shots. They're generating a different kind of intensity for this Rockets team that puts their hard head on the defensive end of the ball.
100%. And we'll go back to the Rockets in a little bit, but I want to really quickly tie this back to Giannis. It sounds like they are the rumors are ramping up, is my point. And I do think that if something doesn't change here, I think the Bucks are going to run a fire sale.
Man, I mean, how are you going to get your money's worth for Giannis Antetokounmpo though? If you were going to trade someone, I believe it would be Damian Lillard. Maybe you combine them for with Bobby Portis or Brook Lopez, who are still solid veterans.
Bobby Portis, who got his house broken into.
Yeah, Bobby Portis. Milwaukee fans are so upset with the team's performance. They robbed his house. It took all of his shit, dude. They're like, okay, you're not going to give us a win. We're going straight to the source. We're going to fuck up your personal life, dude. So so I don't know how they fix that without making a significant trade. Obviously, you can't really get your money's worth for a trade for Giannis. He's an MVP caliber guy year after year. There's no way to stop the guy, and he's still got 5-6 years left.
Where would you like to see Giannis if like you had like a magic button that like you could see
Magic
like, a trade
button?
or something?
No, we don't need him on the Rockets. We already got.
Don't say that.
We got a full.
We wouldn't mind Giannis.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Honestly,
Who would you like?
The best team to get, like, I don't know if they would be
Like reasonably.
I mean, I was gonna say the Warriors, but there's no way they could. There's no way they could trade to get
No,
Giannis. But if somehow Giannis and Steph were
I
on
don't
the
even want
same
to
team,
just. Well, we won't even say that on
championships, not one, multiple.
But
championships.
like more
Okay,
realistically,
more realistic.
with like actual
maybe
trade
honestly, like the Lakers, man.
Yeah.
Like you trade a guy like Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
Like, bro, but like I don't know. That's like that trade is possible, but I don't think it's likely to happen. I don't know, man. There's not really a good place right now. Like maybe Philly with all their injuries, they try and blow it up. But like, bro, you have to get rid of Maxey, I would assume, for that. And like, you want to keep your young guy who's a all-star for multiple years in a row.
All I know is that the Nets and Thunder have an insane amount of picks. Maybe
Nets and Thunder.
the Rockets have some picks. But we also have young talent.
You mentioned the Thunder. I mean, like, if you wanted to get Giannis on your team, you probably have to get rid of Chet.
Yeah.
And like, I don't think it's worth getting rid of Chet right now because he has such a high ceiling.
Yeah.
He's a great
And he's
shot
young.
blocker. He can shoot. So I don't know, man. I think Giannis is probably going to have to stay there.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
But I could see Dame moving for someone. So we'll see.
There you have it, folks. That's our prediction. That's our take. Let's move on to what we have. One more. We have one more.
Also, one more bad surprise.
One more bad surprise.
Obviously, the Pelicans, man. They're just the only player in their starting lineup that's still healthy is Brandon Ingram, and that was the one guy they were trying to trade. They're trying to trade him in the offseason. So karma's coming back for them. Maybe it's that voodoo down in New Orleans. I don't know what's going on there. But no one can stay healthy. It's just Brandon Ingram. He can't win by himself. CJ McCollum, Alvarado just got a little injury. Zion's out for a couple weeks now.
Probably longer.
They don't even have a center.
Yeah.
When they were healthy, they didn't have a center. They were trying to put Herb Jones at center. So man, I don't know. Trey Murphy, I think, is injured too, dude.
Yeah.
Like it's sad. I like the Pelicans and I wanted them to do well. I thought they were going to be a fun team to watch. As Jay Murray got injured like in the first game of the season or something, one of the first couple games. So just they're a bad surprise, but with the injuries that they have, it's not unexpected.
Yeah.
It's just a sad thing to see.
Yeah, well, before we move on, I want to quickly mention one more basketball thing on my end, Gabe, that I'd like you to react to. We've mentioned this before, the Terror Twins, Houston Rockets. We're all big fans. I want to make I don't even think it's a hot take, but I'd like other people to disagree with me, tell me I'm wrong, give me other options, because I think I'm pretty much factually correct here. I think that Amen Thompson and Tari Eason are the two best they are the best defensive wing duo in the NBA.
I think so too.
The only people that I can think maybe is like OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, but they're not even doing that good.
Mikal has been
maybe Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. I
think
those are the only two I can think of. What do you got?
You're saying the Terror Twins, Amen Thompson and Tari Eason, bro, they're fantastic, rebounding the ball, pushing the pace.
Pure defense as a duo, I think.
Pure defense, causing blocks and steals left and right. No one can compete with their speed and athleticism. But I would say it's between them and Derek White and Drew Holiday.
Oh, but isn't Drew Holiday a guard? He's not a
Drew
wing.
Holiday's a guard. But
I'm saying specifically wings.
Okay, specifically wings. Like
that's why I said Mikal and OG.
For sure. Then yeah, they're definitely
because I feel like defensive guard duos and wing duos are separate in my head.
It's just I would say like Derek White is like 6'5", Drew Holiday's like 6'5", 6'6".
That's true.
They can guard anybody, even though they're guards and they're strong guys. They can block shots even at the guard position. Like I mentioned earlier, Derek White again is leading.
And I guess
blocks.
Bridges is a guard technically too.
Yeah, he's 2-3.
Yeah,
but yeah. Anyway, it's a positionless kind of basketball that's constantly evolving.
True.
But yeah, even that being said, whatever defensive duo you're talking about, I do think Amen and Tari are those guys.
Yeah.
Bro. They're goons, dude.
Yeah.
You can't do anything against them, bro. Yeah. They're locking shit down.
And they're on our bench.
And they're coming off the bench. Like the other day, it was like the first time I think in NBA history where two players came off the bench and both had 15 and 10.
Wow.
Off the bench.
That's crazy.
And, when you combine him with Fred VanVleet, who's an above-average point guard defender, even though he's small, Dylan Brooks at the same time, and then if you take out Şengün, he's been improving on the defensive end, but Imagine a lineup where it's Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks, Amen Thompson, Tari Eason, and Jabari Smith. How are you going to score on that team?
That's insane.
You have to get a mismatch on Fred, but he's great at getting the steals.
Yeah.
With his low center of gravity, he can swipe for that ball.
It's true.
Like our team is a defensive juggernaut.
Yeah.
And teams better be putting us on notice, dude.
Yeah.
Like if you really want to prove that these guys aren't the best defensive duo, prove it.
Show us and tell us who you think it is. Thank you guys. We're going to move on to knickknacks and the echo chamber. We'll see you guys shortly.
Let's go.